Time now to bring in today's political panel. America First Policy Institute Director of Election Integrity, Hogan Gidley, and Fox News contributor Richard Fowler. All right, Richard, going to tee you up first. I kind of feel like people are making more out of this fissure within the Democrats. I think Chuck Schumer's right. I think people get it. When you talk to Chuck, you kind of figure out where his angle is on this. What do you think?
I tend to disagree with you on this one. I think there were 9 Democrats that bucked their party. If you look at the majority of 90% of Democrats on the Congress, they voted against this continuing resolution. And here's why they did it. What we've seen over the past 10 weeks or since Donald Trump has been inaugurated is we've seen Donald Trump and we've seen Elon Musk do everything in their power to expand the executive branch, right? We've seen them gut whole federal agencies. We've seen them fire federal workers who live in Texas, or federal workers that live in Alabama, or federal workers that live in West Virginia, people who go to work every day to serve our veterans. We've seen them fire veterans, for that matter. And what this was about was ensuring that there would be some congressional oversight to some of the chaos that's happening in the executive branch. And what Chuck Schumer did in this moment is said, I would rather see the bully continue to take our lunch money than actually standing up to the bully. And that's why there's a lot of Democrats, as we're sitting here right now, if you look out that window, there are actual Democrats protesting. And they're mad at Donald Trump, but they're more mad at these 9 senators who decided not to stand up.
See, this brother's got AOC on speed dial.
No, it's more than AOC.
True. Are you serious?
It's more than AOC. These are more than just progressives. These are Democrats from across. When Nancy Pelosi and AOC agree on something,
that's when you know it. So that's a good point. He makes a great point there, Hogan. And listen, at the end of the day, for me, I felt like Chuck was between a rock and a hard place. Ultimately, he could have said, we're going to shut it down, get it right. But then they run the risk of Elon Musk and Donald Trump running amok. At least that's what Democratic sources have been telling me all week long.
This was a huge win for House Republicans led by Mike Johnson, a huge win for Donald Trump, and quite frankly, a huge win for the American people. It was Democrats for years who have told us if the government shuts down, there will be so much death and despair and disruption all over the place. Why'd they vote against something that they basically voted for just 3 months ago that would have kept the government open? It is interesting, though, because Senate Democrats, I think, were in a tough place, because if they had voted to go to a shutdown, which every reporter on the Hill knows was the most clear-cut case ever of Republicans doing their job, giving it to Democrats, and then Democrats, if they voted to shut down the government, they would have been to blame, which is way different than years past. But you would have gone into a situation where non-essential workers would have been let go for a time period, and then that would have exposed exactly what Doge and Donald Trump are trying to get across to the American people. You don't need all these people around all of the time, and that would have put the Democrats in a serious, difficult position.
Hold that thought, Richard. I'm going to get you both to weigh in. This is Catherine Clark, Party United, on the budget bill, again, unpacking this notion that there is a way to move forward without necessarily siding with the president. Listen.
Our party is united on this front, that we will stand with the American people. And we are having a disagreement here, but this is what unites us.
See, I don't mind a little fight. I don't mind a little back and forth. I know your party doesn't mind one either, but in this case, they seem to be particularly exercised more than usual.
When Hogan says that this is a win for the American people, I'm not sure if that's comical or it's tragic. And here's why I say that. When you see some of the cuts that have been made by President Donald Trump, cuts to the Department of Education, cuts to to programs that help students with disabilities, right, when they fire 1,300 workers in the middle of the night. When you see them make cuts to the Veteran Affairs Department and they lay off people that work at the suicide hotline that make sure the veterans don't decide to take their lives, right? When you see them fire a IRS office in rural West Virginia that's keeping a city afloat, and they say these people don't matter, these workers are ineffective or inefficient.
But with shutting
I'm not sure if that's comical or if that's tragic, but these are people that are working every day for the American people. They're not paper pushers. These are experts that have dedicated their lives to public service and to the American people.
But what I'm asking is, would shutting down the government had made a difference in all that? Because in this circumstance, we have jobs. But if you have a family and the government shuts down, particularly if it's protracted, that impacts people, I think, if not as much, maybe even more.
You know what's funny, Kevin, is that yesterday, as a journalist, I spent some time calling federal workers and asked them what they thought. A lot of them were calling the Senate switchboard, urging senators to shut the government down because they said somebody's got to stand up to this bully that is literally rifling through the federal government and laying off people without reason, without rhyme, just doing it because they think somehow, some way, they're going to cut $2 trillion from the federal government by laying off people that make $50,000 or $60,000 a year when they know that math just doesn't add up.
Almost up to $200 billion cuts so far. Hogan, your reaction?
For the life of me, I can't understand why Democrats continue to gravitate to the 20% of people, not the 80% that support a closed border, no wars all around the world, lower prices for gas and groceries. Democrats won't even stand up for a kid with cancer who just wants to be a police officer. They won't stand up for someone who was brought back from Russia as a hostage.
Here you go.
They'll stand up for these ridiculous.
I will stand up for a kid with cancer, and I will fight to ensure that the National Institute of Health has enough money to continue funding cancer research for children, which, may I add, grants that Donald Trump and Elon Musk have cut.
Again, Democrats used to be for.
I am for it.
For sane, rational, responsible
We are.
federal government. And clearly, they are advocating for, on the record, in support of fraud, waste, and abuse in our government. I can't understand
the fraud,
politically
the waste, and abuse, and let's go cut it.
We do
but
it
cutting
every
1,300 people from the
every
Department of
single day.
Education just because you feel like it's a good
Donald
ideal.
Trump, and you
So
guys
you're saying
refuse
it's a
to
good
do it.
ideal to cut 1,300 people from the Department of Education?
I'm saying
I want you to put that on the record. Are you saying that's a good idea?
I'm saying without question, these departments are completely
Is it
bloated,
okay to
and they
cut
waste federal
1,300
taxpayer
people
dollars
from the
every
Department of Education?
They
Yes or
waste
no?
taxpayer dollars every single day.
Is it okay
the Department
to
of
cut
Education,
1,300
as you
people
well
from
know,
the Department
is
of Education?
not
It's a yes or no
needed at
question.
the level at which it is being funded
Okay.
right now.
So
that is
is it okay
obvious
to
to
cut
most
1,300
Americans.
people from there?
That is
Gents,
obvious for most Americans.
Great stuff. Awesome. I would offer bourbon, but they won't let me drink on the job. Hogan, Richard, thank you much.
Good to see you, Kevin.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.